Rome didn't just fall, its soldiers were abandoned to chaos. The year is 476 AD. The Western Roman Empire collapses overnight. Legions once feared across the world vanish. No final battle. No heroic last stand. Just silence. Thousands of Roman soldiers suddenly lose everything. No emperor. No pay. No orders. Did you know many weren't even Roman anymore? They were Germanic recruits, fighting for a dying empire. Some soldiers turned into mercenaries. Others joined barbarian kings, swearing loyalty to former enemies. Forts across Europe were abandoned. Armor left to rust. Eagles lost forever. Then came the shocking truth. Rome didn't disappear, it was taken over from within. Many ex-Roman soldiers joined leaders like Odoacer, the same man who ended the empire. Imagine that moment. You once defended Rome's glory, now you serve its destroyer. Some soldiers became farmers, trying to survive in a broken world. Others kept fighting, but for new kingdoms. Rome's army didn't die. It slowly transformed into something unrecognizable. The empire fell, but its warriors lived on. You're looking at the aftermath of something the world thought would last forever. The fall of Rome.
I'm going to walk you through what happened next. Because the truth...
When the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD, it didn't just disappear overnight. It fractured. And the men who once carried its power on their shoulders were suddenly left without a world to defend. It's late 5th century Europe. The cities are quieter now. Roads that once carried legions across continents are cracked and empty. The empire that ruled for centuries is gone. But the soldiers, they're still here. And here's something most people never realize. Thousands of Roman soldiers didn't die in battle. They were abandoned by history. Many of them weren't even Roman-born. By the empire's final years, a huge portion of the army was made up of Germanic recruits, men who once fought against Rome, now wearing its armor. So what happens when the empire falls but the army remains? That's where our story begins.
Make sure
And if you're into stories that feel more like hidden history than textbook facts, make sure you're subscribed, because this one only gets deeper. Before Rome fell, its army was everything. It wasn't just a military force, it was the backbone of the empire. These soldiers built roads, enforced laws, protected borders, and carried Roman identity into every corner of the known world. But by the 5th century, things had changed. Rome wasn't the unstoppable machine it once was. Political corruption spread. Emperors rose and fell in months. Loyalty wasn't to Rome anymore, it was to whoever paid the soldiers. And the army, it was no longer purely Roman. Entire units were made up of foederati, barbarian allies who fought for Rome in exchange for land, money, or protection. Men like the Visigoths, the Vandals, even the Ostrogoths. They weren't just enemies anymore. They were inside the system. And that made everything fragile. Now imagine being one of those soldiers. You've spent your life fighting under the Roman eagle. You've marched across provinces, seen battles, lost brothers. Rome is your identity. And then one day it's gone. No orders, no emperor, no pay. Just silence. In 476 AD, a Germanic leader named Odoacer deposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. But here's the twist. He didn't destroy the army. He inherited it. Many Roman soldiers simply switched allegiance overnight. One day they served Rome, the next, they served Odoacer. Not because they wanted to, because they had no other choice. Others weren't so lucky. Without leadership or structure, thousands of soldiers were left stranded, scattered across former Roman territories. Some returned home if they had won. Some became mercenaries, selling their skills to the highest bidder. And some, they vanished completely from the records. No history books, no names, no graves. Just gone. Think about that for a second. Men who once stood at the center of the most powerful empire on earth, reduced to nothing. And here, where it gets even more complicated. Because while Rome fell in the west, it still lived on in the east. The Eastern Roman Empire, what we now call the Byzantine Empire, continued for nearly another 1,000 years. So for some soldiers, the question became, do you stay in a broken world or try to reach a surviving empire? Some historians believe small groups of Western soldiers migrated east, attempting to join Byzantine forces, but records are unclear. And that uncertainty, that's part of what makes this story so haunting. Because we don't know how many made it, or how many didn't. But one thing is certain. The fall of Rome didn't end its army. It scattered it. And what happened next would reshape Europe in ways no one at the time could have imagined.